Yo, what is good? Welcome to the video. It's your boy Gurf, and this is a video breakdown of my remix of XAVIER's track, Skateboard. We're gonna start off with the intro. The intro is basically like broken down into like 4 parts. The drums, the effects bus, the synth bus, and the perks. Well, the idea started by laying in all of the effects from the original track and then speeding it up to give it just, the tempo that I wanted. Then I took this like flute sounding loop. I stretched it out, tuned it up, and added lots of reverb to give it a space that the track could kind of take place in. And then with the original effects, that sounds like this. And then I added drums on top of that. The percussions just help keep this more bouncy and vibey. On top of the drums, they add like an extra bit of like bounciness that I appreciate. With like a very short, kind of sassy 808 that I thought had the right attitude. To turn this up a notch, halfway through that little pre-build, I brought the 808s down. Like they were really tight in that higher octave, and then it almost loosens the groove up and gives it a little bit more energy with a lower octave. So that comes in halfway through, right here. And then all that together is, with the vocal. So you hear how when it drops down the 808, it just gets a little bit more visceral. It's kind of an interesting thing. And then it goes into the build section. I also just used the effects builds from the original track kind of to act as a support bass for the rest of this. I also added some of my own drums to flesh it all out. And honestly, I'm just gonna play the whole thing at once and zoom in inside and show you some stuff. So you see the build drums in the MIDI, that's my snare that I added. With some extra kicks. Let me show you the pre-drop vocal. I did a little bit of time stretching to just spice it up. If you're ever doing a remix, sometimes it's good to change the rhythm of the pre-drop vocal. It just throws people off, and sometimes it can be cool, but it can also be really bad if you do it wrong. So this is what I did. The original sounded like... Right? And now I have this. Okay, let's go just play. So I stretched out those last couple syllables and just made it kind of sound cool. Now let's get into the drop. So we'll start with breaking down the 2 main sounds I have from the drop. The first sound is a lower, kind of grimier bass that I made from resampling some of the basses from the original track. And the second one, it's like a bouncy, rhythmic kind of lead that I made in SERUM, and I'll break that down for you too. But let's start with the main bass. Right here I have the mixer channel with all the processing on this bass. I'm going to turn it all off. These were chops from the original stem of all the basses that he sent, and I chopped them up and I put them into a rhythm of my own. This is what they sound like. You can kind of already hear it. Then I used SERUM effects to add like this just really grimy quality to it. I used a diode to distortion. Without the comb filter that I added underneath it, it sounds like this. You can hear just a little more grime, but then that comb filter with the cutoff really low just adds like really metallic, almost robotic kind of sound to it. I used a couple limiters as well just to sidechain different drums to it so they could cut through better. Used an EQ for just some subtractive mixing just because some stuff was a little harsh, so it's good to just dip down in the harsh sections, dip down those frequencies. So then the second higher sort of bouncier lead that happens, this is something I made in SERUM. I'll just bring you through the different stages of it. So it starts out with this crush wub, this sawtooth wave, and this sine wave, all in different oscillators. You can see the sub is turned down. Got a little modulation on the wavetable, and some ASIM. Ooh, some ASIM. These are all turned down. Without all the processing here, this really doesn't sound like a whole lot at all, to be completely honest. It just sounds like a weird, like, whipping nothing. I mean, I have to turn up the master so you can even hear it. Listen. Sounds like shit, right? There's nothing. So, the first thing I did was grime it up with a sinefold distortion. And that makes it more white noisy, you know, that doesn't really sound good. But when I add the comb filter on top of it, it becomes like a whole thing. Like it sounds right. I'd say low cutoff on the comb filter, boosted really high with the resonance and the drive knobs, just to really get that wetness out of it. There's also some slight modulation I have here on LFO 2. This is a longer LFO that is actually 8 bars long. It travels really slowly on the cutoff and makes that like pitch bend type sound. The actual shape of the sound itself is located in LFO 1, where I have this it's at 1/8 of a rate on this LFO, and it travels really quick. That's how I got the whipping kind of shape to it. So then that sounded good, but like it needs to be grittier and grimier and pop more, so I added a compressor and some reverb, and also an EQ at the very end to just get all that muddy bass out of there, because it's gonna conflict with my sub, and I do not want that. So that's super dirty, and you know, laid in with the rest of the track, it sounds like so. The one last thing that I just want to point out, a lot of people appreciated this about this track, and I think it just makes the whole thing sound a lot more bouncy and fun. I tried to use as many strange percussions as I could. There's a vibra slap in there at one point. There are lots of different types of like sweeps and vocal chops. The sheesh, shout out my boy FOOLIE SURFIN. There's also lots of snare ghost notes. That's something, I mean, I do it naturally when I play the drums in, but also I just think it adds a lot more bounce and variation to your rhythms, and it sounds really good. So here's just that. Hear those? Crispy, nice. And then to top it all off with these nice little cute little perks is the bed squeak. I hear bed squeaks in Jersey club and Baltimore club music all the time, even in some R&B, and I don't know, man, I just think they sound so good, they're so fun, and I wanted to put some in like a bouncy, sort of twerky, trappy song. So here's the percussion, and you can hear the bed squeak on top of it. Like that thing. You hear it? I don't know. I think I thought that was just a fun little touch. Other than that, you know, this is a very groove-oriented track, and this just came out very naturally. I think a lot of the best songs do. And I was really proud of this, so let me know if you enjoyed this video. I'm gonna post some samples from the song if you wanna like mess around with it. Go check out XAVIER, go check out FOOLIE SURFIN and RUNNIT and all the other guys who I use their samples in this track. So many talented friends, and I'm really stoked to do this remix again for my homie XAVIER. So I will see you guys soon. Here's a video of me playing the whole drop and the build up out. So enjoy this, jam out. I'll see you guys soon. Peace.